All right, look at 2 Corinthians 4. Remain standing with me. 2 Corinthians 4, 15 through 18. And it reads, Paul writing to the church of Corinth and says, "For all things are for your sakes, that the abundant grace through the thanksgiving of many may redound to the glory of God." There's certain parts of scripture that I highlight. That means I'm supposed to mention, really go in on a little bit. For all things are for your sake. You think everything that's happened is a coincidence or is randomness, as we would say. He said, but it's actually for you. All things are for your sakes, that the abundant grace might through thanksgiving of many redound to the glory of God. The things are going to some kind of way give God glory. Verse 16, for which cause we faint not. We don't give up, we don't cave in, we don't quit, we don't start pouting, staying home. For which cause we faint not. For though our outward man perishes, yet the inward man is renewed day by day. For our light affliction, light, he's talking about if you put it in the scale, one side compared to the other, one part is heavy, one part is light. Our light affliction, which is but for a moment, it worketh for us. He started off saying all things are for your sakes. Our light affliction, it worketh for us. A far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory. But you got to keep it while. It will work for you while we look not at the things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen. For the things which are seen are temporal or temporary, but the things which are not seen are eternal. You may be seated in the presence of the Lord. For all things are for your sakes. Our light afflictions, but for a moment, but it's going to work for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory. Two of the most trying times, and y'all know I tell you my stories all the time, okay? But two of the most trying and most pivotal times in my life came as a result of being separated from my employer. I told you I'm using a different vocabulary now. Two of the most pivotal, trying times came as a result of being separated from my employer, terminated from my source of income. For those of you who still don't get it, fired. As I think about it, I had been fired before. When I was a teenager, I got fired because I was supposed to mop the place called Murray Steaks. Somebody knew about Murray Steaks? Oh, y'all remember Murray Steaks? All frozen steaks, okay? Murray Steaks, and so I worked there, and so before I left the day before, I was supposed to mop the floor. So the manager comes in the next day and see I didn't mop the floor before. I can't remember why I didn't mop the floor, probably stacking or doing something else. And he said to me, you mop the floor and then punch in. I said, that ain't how this work. I will not mop the floor and then punch in. I will punch in and then mop the floor. He said, no, you're going to mop the floor and then. I said, no, I'm not. No, sir, all due respect. I will be on the clock if I'm going to mop the floor. I mop the floor at home and get nothing. But if I'm going to mop the floor up in Murray Steak, you're going to pay me for mopping the floor. Slavery is over. I didn't say all that, but I'm just putting it together. This is good preaching now. And so he said, well, no. He said, well, you're fired. I said, well, I quit. So if he was still here, I can't remember his name, he would probably say I got fired. I would say I quit. Another time, I was my senior year in high school. I was working from 5 to 2 in the morning for the Hilton Hotel as a dishwasher. I needed extra money. My mother kept saying, you don't need to be working that late, because I was my senior year in high school, but I needed money, and so I worked from 5 to 2 in the morning. Y'all ain't heard these stories. I realized I ain't told y'all this one. And so we worked in the kitchen of the hotel restaurant, and it was a bunch of teenage guys and stuff, and so we were back there just drinking from the fountain drinks, and the dishes were piling up, and we were like, we're gonna get to them. He said, get water. We said, we get ready. We just having, we drink from the fountain. And so he said, what? And so he came back up. He said, you're all fired. It was like a crew of 5. By now, the dishes piled up. We're like, okay, can we stay here, watch you wash these dishes by yourself? So that's the other time I got fired. I was tired anyway, and I shouldn't be working that job. But then in 1986, in October of 1986, after the result of moving to Maine to work for my uncle, who was an executive recruiter, and I was going to be a headhunter placing engineers. And I had just met him, had never met him the year before. He came down to Marsha and I's wedding, and the whole family was suspicious because he didn't come around the family. He was married to a French-Canadian woman, and he kind of had separated himself from the other people in the family because he married a French-Canadian woman. And so he separated himself from the other folks in the family because he married a French-Canadian woman. Y'all understand? And so now he's coming to my wedding. Everybody's like, what's up? Why is he coming to the wedding? And so his wife had come down the year before I met her because she wanted to bring my cousin, who's been down here since. She wanted to bring my cousin to meet the father's side of the family because she only knew the French-Canadian side of the family. Y'all with me here? And so that's why, and so he heard we got this college graduate in the family, and he came and told me, he came down to the wedding and said, I heard a lot of good things about you. Well, let's get together. And so we talked a little bit. He called me, started telling me about his business, how he wanted to grow it and expand it to New York and have a New York office and all that. And it sounded like a great opportunity. He told me, I'll pay you 30 plus a year. I was making about 23. And, you know, I'm about 23 years old, 24, something like that. And so, man, that sounds like a lot of money. I'm going to go from 23 up to 30,000. And we talking early. Come on, boy from the projects. Come on now. I'm moving up to the east side. So a year after we got married, we moved to Maine. And Marsha had all the red flags. She was saying, I don't understand. When we went up there to visit, he gave us a rental car from Rent-A-Wreck. Y'all ever hear of Rent-A-Wreck? He gave us a rental car from Rent-A-Wreck, put us up at this little motel that we could smell the smell from the mill, okay? And so Marsha kept saying, I don't think your uncle doing the good he said he is. And she said, well, if he got all this money, why he give us this little piece of car and we up here smelling all this from the mill in this hotel? I said, see, that's why our people don't have nothing. The reason why our people don't have nothing, because you want to spend all your money on nice cars and hotels. Rich people, that ain't how they do it. I'm justifying. Okay, past all the red flags. I was there for a couple months. Things started, and then everything came to a head when he heard I was teaching Bible study at the Amy Zion Church on Wednesday night. And he said, "You up there? You can do something on Wednesday night. You need to be here in the office." I said, "No, I'm not going to be in the office." He said, "You need to stop going to that church and stop teaching that Bible study." And I said, "This has nothing to do with the job." And he said, "If you don't stop going teaching this Bible study, then I'm going to fire you." Now, y'all know that was demonic. It had nothing to do with my job. And I said the same thing I told Mr. Murray Steak. I quit. And so I quit. And now Chandler had just been born. He had lied to us about that. I was supposed to have insurance. I had no insurance. It was the whole thing was a mess. And then, but through that we had to learn to trust God. We literally had to believe God for everything. For everything. And then, then I got my footing. I got in the insurance industry, and it looked like things are starting to look up. I was doing well, progress, and now got a new promotion, transferred to Tulsa, Oklahoma. And then from Tulsa, Oklahoma, I went to another company, progressed there. They moved me here to Columbia, South Carolina, or Casey, South Carolina. Then March, that was in September of 1995. In March 97, now this is the big firing. Moved here to another state, making about $60,000 a year, which seemed like really good money. Now at least we got our head above water, and I got fired. And both of these negative employment encounters, and since March of 1997, I've never worked any other job other than being the pastor of this church and doing ministry. But both of these negative employment encounters taught me wisdom principles to help me make life-changing decisions. There are pivotal moments and pivotal trials and pivotal circumstances that you go through that should change your life forever, to cause you to say, I will never be in this situation again, to cause you to say, I'm going to make better decisions, to cause you to learn something that perhaps you did not know or did not adhere to. In both of these situations, I learned number one, never make a decision based upon money. Never make a decision merely based upon money. My whole reason for going to Maine was money. My good friend said to me, Herb, you're in the ministry, you're doing ministry, you evangelize. What about your ministry? I said, well, I'm a minister wherever I go. And I did not seek God. I saw cha-ching, cha-ching. And the cha-ching, cha-ching became ka-clunk. Went to nothing. And then I had to learn to trust God more than man. I had to learn from experience what Proverbs 3:5 says, which is to trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not to your own understanding. Stop being dependent upon your human reasoning. You know, I have several people around me right now who are graduate students, particularly on the PhD level. And so, you know, when you were in the throes of that, you're always talking about the research. They're always talking about what you found out. It's like, you know, their minds is open. And I was thinking about, and so they're always telling me the research and this and what discovered this. And here's what the Lord said to me. All the research is based upon natural. You follow me here. The research is not based upon supernatural. All the research is based upon natural. What's natural? Your own understanding. Comes a time where God wants to do something in your life that you can't research. There's no PhD program for this. It's wisdom that comes from God that's beyond man's understanding. So I had to learn to trust God more than man and lean not to my own understanding. And in both of these situations, I found out, y'all, that what was intended to derail me, detract me, and destroy me actually worked for me to prepare me, to propel me, and to promote me into my destiny. So I came to tell somebody today that what's intended to derail, detract, and destroy you can actually work for you to prepare you, propel you, and promote you. So my subject today is working for you. Look at somebody and say, it's working for you, it's working for you. It's working for you. It's working for you. See, y'all didn't get excited about this subject because it don't feel like it's working for you. But if you really knew what God had on the other side of that trial, if you really knew what God had on the other side of that trouble, you wouldn't focus on the trouble and focus on the victory that's going to come through the trouble, and you would give God a praise in advance. Yet, even me telling those stories and telling you that what those things tried to derail, detract, and destroy actually prepared, propelled, and promoted me. The only reason why I can make those statements today, regardless of those things that happened to me, and the reason why I can say that they end up working for me is because I can now see them from a spiritual versus natural perspective. I can now see them from an eternal versus temporary lens, which is why the text says in 2 Corinthians 4:17-18, our light affliction is but for a moment. Look at your neighbor and say, sometimes it's a long moment. Sometimes it's a long. Come on, we just be honest, it's a long moment. And when we see moment and minute, we got to remember this God talking. Because a God moment, a day with the Lord is as a thousand years is as a day, and a day is as 1,000 years. So God operates outside of our time. We operate in time. He operates in eternity. So when God says, I'll see you tomorrow, well, but he said, in light of what God's going to do and what he's going to produce in your life, our light affliction is but for a moment. And then he said, it's working for us. Come on, say it's working for me. It's working for me. Oh, my God, my God. I know me getting fired, it was working for me. Watch this. Me getting on a first name basis with the folks down at the utility company to work out another payment plan this month, it worked for me. I learned some negotiation skills. Y'all don't hear me? Me calling up the student loan, the agency, helped me to learn to confront things rather than run from them. There's some of you right now, your whole financial situation would turn around if you stopped running from the creditor and called them. My son-in-law said to me while he was here, we were talking about this. I think were they here last week? He was here last week, right? We were talking about this last Sunday in the car. He went to a game with me, and we were talking about how you got to confront things. He told me years ago, this is before he ever met Kim, he said, I was in the hospital. He said, I was in the hospital for a week. He said, I got out the hospital, my hospital bill was $130,000. Now, he's in probably his mid-20s at the time. He said, my hospital bill was $130,000. He said, so I called them. I said, I don't know what y'all planning on doing. No, like y'all got a problem. He said, because I can't pay this. I can't begin to pay it. I can't work out a payment plan. There is nothing I can do. I don't know what y'all going to do with this $130,000 bill, but y'all got to do something. He said he left the hospital with a $300 bill. All because he confronted it. All because he just made a call. See, because you need to understand, catch this, I've been teaching this for years. When you don't talk, what's a weakness ends up looking like a wickedness. You can have financial problems, but it look like you got a problem. Can you understand that? See, there are people who just have no integrity. They ain't gonna pay the bill if you give them the money. There's some people who can't pay, and there's people who won't pay. And there is a difference. God can't bless you if you won't pay, but he can give you favor, come on, if you can't pay. Y'all need to catch hold of this. And so I learned things. I learned integrity principles. I learned how to negotiate. I learned how to wait on God. I learned how to trust God. He said they work for us. But verse 18, the key to it working for us is that I can't focus on it. While we look not at the things which are seen, but look at the things which are not seen. Again, you can't put this verse in a test tube. In the natural, it makes no sense. It says, don't look at what you can see. Huh? Look at what you can't see. He says, don't look at the visible, look at the invisible. That tells, I've been teaching this for years, catch it. There are things in two realms. There are visible things, but there are invisible things. The Bible says that Jesus created all things, both visible and invisible. One of the clearest examples I give of this, how many of y'all drove a car today? Where's your car out? Point the direction of your car. If you're like Pastor Marshall, you can't get it right. Pastor Marshall, when we play this game. I let her walk out the hotel room first, then I stand there, I go. Most of the time she get it wrong. And she'll go taking off that in the elevator down here, and I just stand there and looking for her. She said, why do you do that? I said, I just like seeing you get it wrong. She really has no sense of direction. She just won't. She won't get it. But where's your car? Where's your car? Some of you are pointing this way, some pointing that way. How you know it's there? Y'all do know we on Broad River Road. I pray your car's still there. You placed it there, you don't see that car thing, but you believe it's there even though you don't see it, because that's where you put it. You don't see it, but you believe it's there. And you're going to leave here going, expecting it to be there. The Bible said God created all things, both visible and invisible, things which are seen, which are not seen. And watch it. And then it says, he has already given us all things that pertain to life and godliness. He already put it there. I don't see it, but if he put it there, I have it. Come on now. And I got to focus on the things that, watch it, God has already provided all my provision. God has all, watch this. See if I can remember how the Lord spoke this to me years ago. He supplies, and my God shall supply, provide. Philippians 4:19. What's Philippians 4:19? My God shall what? My God shall supply all my need according to, watch this. He supplies out of what he's already provided. Oh, come on now. He supplies out of what he's provided. I have 529 plans for all my grandchildren, just like I had prepaid tuition plans. So I got 520 and Kendra, I kept telling her, I kept saying, listen, I need a social security number. I need a social security number. I said, you were causing the twins to lose money. Every day you don't give me this, I'm setting this up, okay? The money not going in there, it's not being compounded. And finally, I put my son-in-law in the chat. He said, please, he said, you should have sent this to me. He said, nobody understands compound interest in this house but me. Okay? And so the plan is when they go to college that I will be able to provide for them based upon what I've supplied for them. I will supply based upon what I provided. Are you with me? God has already provided everything you need. It's in the invisible realm. Say this, I already have it, already have it. Already have it. Already have it. Already have it. Okay. But so I can't focus on the lack. I gotta focus on the provision. So he says, the only way this can work for me, I gotta get my thinking right and my eyesight right and my vision right. Ooh, Jesus. I got to see myself rich. I have to see myself healed. I have to see myself delivered in order for this to work for me. If I don't see it right, it will work against me rather than for me, but all things are for your sake. Y'all aren't catching this here. I started realizing, seriously, realizing that a lot of things that I've gone through in life, yeah, there are things I made some dumb decisions and made some wrong mistakes and wrong turns and all that. But I started realizing a lot of what I've gone through in my life personally is for y'all. I ain't blaming y'all. But I've gone through it so I can get the victory over it and share with you. Now God gonna do the same thing for you. God just used me to go into the promised land and bring back the grapes and say, come on, let's go up at once. You can go, it's waiting for you. This is the good land. This is the fruit of the land. Now go get it. And so a lot of things, what I've realized that I've gone through personally is for you corporately. That's why I can't have too much pride to share my stories. And I told you years ago, somebody tried to mess with me about my story. They told me I'm telling these same stories over and over again. And I said, I finally said, we're going to another church then, because there's somebody here who ain't heard these stories, and somebody's still getting blessed from these stories, and somebody who need to realize if God did that for Bishop Bailey, who came out the project, he can do that for me, who came out of Irmo. So though the affliction, the trial, and trouble is intended to work against you, God has a way of intercepting the devil's schemes and devices and causing the trials and troubles to work for you rather than against you. And Paul implies that all Christians should have assurance of this spiritual truth. Paul implies, don't y'all know this? Romans 8:28, he says, and we know, you know, and we know that all things work together for good to them that what? Love. Anybody here love the Lord? For them that love God and to them that are called according to his purpose. Paul said, we know this. It's what I say. A lot of times you got to get certain things set up. I know God loves me. I know God's good, the devil's bad. I know that God wants to add and multiply in my life, just like I know the devil wants to subtract and divide from my life. I know certain things. I know it's settled. It's settled. It's settled. Paul said this got to become settled for you, and we know. We know. Come on, say I know. I know. I know. So whatever I'm going through, you got to say, now I know this is going to work out for my good. Yeah, I'm going through this right now. We're going through this right now. I'm going through this with my child right now. I'm going through with my marriage right now. I'm going through this with my child right now. I'm going through this on my job right now. I'm dealing with this stress right now, but I know it's going to work for my good, and I can't focus on what I'm going through. I got to focus on what I'm going to. I'm on my way to victory. I'm on my way to success. I'm on my way to prosperity. I'm on my way to joy, because weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. He didn't tell us how long the night's going to be, but I know that after the night, a joyous morning is coming. Tell your neighbor, say, just make it through the night. Just make it through the night. Just make it through the night. Make it through the night. Paul implies all Christians should have this assurance, and we know. And throughout the scripture, we see this principle that it works for them. It's working for me. Say it again. Say it's working for me. It's working for me. It worked for Joseph. In Genesis, the 37th chapter, we read about this young boy named Joseph, who initially God gave him dreams, and he started sharing his dream with dream killers. Come on, somebody, tell somebody around you, say, don't share your dream with dream killers. Everybody ain't excited about your dream. I'm going to mess y'all up real bad. Everybody in your family ain't excited about your dream. You know, people come, other people in ministry. Some of y'all, y'all know I'll be telling you everything. I'll be telling you ministry secrets too, okay? A lot of people come here in ministry, and they are shocked to see how Pastor Marsha and I operate. Because a lot of people in ministry, they're competing with each other. The husband tell the wife, now, don't make them shout, because if you make them shout, I can't make them shout. Okay? You can't, don't do all that. You got to kind of stay in the background. I got to be in the forefront. No. We work together. As a matter of fact, everybody you see here, we work together. Pastor Mark's worked with me, Pastor Chandler worked with me, Pastor Sean. Sometimes Sean and preach so much, I'm sorry, well, I can just teach today. He took care of all that. There's no competition when you want God to get the glory. So you need to understand, I hate to say this, unfortunately, there's husbands and wives who are not excited about each other's dream. That's so sad. There's parents who compete with the children. That's why you see the daughter with a dress up to here, and then the mother with a dress up to here. Because she's trying to be as cute as a daughter. Baby, that season is over. Let your daughter be cute by herself. Your cute days have passed. Somebody said, the devil is a liar. I don't care what you say. I know I'm still cute. You know, you realize at a certain age, you start looking, I'm using better vocabulary. You look less wise. You just don't look wise. When you start wearing certain, come on, at a certain age, mothers need to look like mothers. The Bible said the older women need to teach the younger women. But now we need younger women teaching the older women. Mama, don't wear that no more. Joseph told his dream to his brothers. His brothers didn't like his dream because he said, the Lord showed me one day I'm going to be up here and y'all going to be down here and I'm going to be sitting up here. Y'all going to be sitting down here. And y'all gonna be bowing down to me and everything. It's almost like you're worshiping me. Like you just come, you humble yourself before me. He's the youngest brother. They said, let's kill this dreamer. And so they put him they got ready to kill him. One of the brothers said, no, let's not kill him. Let's sell him into slavery. And so we pick up in Genesis 37. It says, and is that what I want? Genesis 30, let me see. 39. Genesis 39, rather. I'm sorry, y'all. And Joseph was brought down to Egypt. And Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him. He was brought physically. He was bought with money. Bought him by the hand of the Ishmaelites, which had brought him down there. So he's purchased as a slave. But verse 2 goes with verse 1. Don't ever stop reading there. Anytime you see and, that means I'm supposed to keep reading. And the Lord was with Joseph. And he was a prosperous man. And he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. It said he was prosperous even though he was a slave in a master's house. Oh my God. The New King James said the Lord was with Joseph and he was a successful man. And he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. The Amplified the verse says, watch this, y'all. The Lord was with Joseph and even though a slave. Somebody shout, even though, even though. Even though means the circumstances don't have to change what God has in store for me. Even though a slave, he became a successful and prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. And so, because the blessing was on him, when the blessing is on you, what the devil means for evil is always intercepted. When there are, seriously, y'all, there are people I know who have tried to do things to hurt me. And I know some of y'all, you got to understand spiritual warfare to even understand that concept. Okay? I know that people tried to do things to hurt me, and I start feeling sorry for them. Not because of what I'm going to do, but because I now know God's going to trouble my trouble. Now, there are times, if you've done something wrong, treated somebody wrong, but sometimes you need to go back and evaluate. Did I say something? Did I do something? Did I offend? But no, there's sometimes, as James Cleveland once said, sometimes folks just don't like you because they don't like you. Okay? And so they try to do things, try to hinder you, try to sabotage you. And I know God will fight my battle. The Bible says it's a righteous thing with God to trouble those that trouble you. God said, I will fight for you. And so I know when the blessing of God is on your life, what you meant for evil is going to come back and bite you in your hand. The Lord was with Joseph. It goes on, and so he becomes, and then the blessings on his life, devil's still trying to mess with him, and then Mrs. Potiphar comes to him, tries to seduce him, tries to get him to lie with her, and he would try to avoid her. Everybody say, try to avoid her. Okay? Some things you're going to have to be intentional to avoid. Brothers and sisters, there's some things you got to be intentional to avoid. Okay? If you ever see me with my arm around a woman, she's my wife, she's my daughter, my wife is right around, is one of my daughters here in the church, other folks around, I don't put my arms around women. All because well over 25 years ago, I took a picture with a young lady who was in our church, and she took the picture and started telling people, I think Pastor liked me. And the sister told her, you need to stop saying this. So she came and told me and Pastor Marshall. We brought all it. Well, I said, you know, listen, most of the time when you see me taking a picture with them, I'm saying like this. Okay? Not because anything, certain things you just got to avoid. Come on, you got to use wisdom. Today, all the more, you got to avoid things, you got to avoid people, you got to avoid circumstances, because some things I keep saying, it's just too much to explain. You don't even want to put yourself in certain situations. And so Joseph tried to avoid her. And then when he goes to run from her one day, she grabs his cloak and he runs out. And then she says that he tried to rape her and assaulted her. He's put in prison. I do not believe that Mr. Potiphar believed that Joseph tried to rape his wife. He knew that his wife was a woman of ill repute. $2 one. Stop it, Herbert. Of ill repute. Because if he believed her, I believe he would have him killed. But he's put in prison, but the blessing is on him. And so because when he's put in prison, now he ends up being warden of the prison. When God's blessing is on you, the more folks try to oppress you, the more you will keep rising up. Look at somebody and say, I will keep rising up. Come on now. You cannot keep a blessed man down. You cannot keep a blessed woman down, because it will end up working for me. Oh, it'll work against you, but it will work for me. What you do to me is already done to you. So he keeps being raised up, keep being raised up. And Joseph goes from the pit to Potiphar, from the pit to Potiphar to prison, becomes the warden of the prison, gets to prophesize and interpret dreams in the prison. I believe the butler, the baker, I would get them mixed up, butler or baker gets his job back. And Genesis 41 verse 14, when Pharaoh needs a dream interpreted, they remember this guy Joseph who was in prison. Genesis 41:14 says, then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him quickly out of the dungeon, and he shaved, changed his clothing, and came to Pharaoh. Now, he brought him out quickly, but he had time to change, get himself together. Some of y'all need to keep yourself together, because the shift gonna happen quickly. Put on your backpack. The shift gonna happen quick. How they say that? You won't have to get ready if you stay ready. You got to stay ready for God to shift things in your life quickly. You got to stay ready that when you're sent for, you already got the answer. And they sent for Joseph. And now he ends up being the prince of Egypt. He ends up being the prime minister of Egypt. And what was meant to work against him every step got him closer to destiny. It worked for him. 1 Samuel 2:8 basically shows us what happened with Joseph. 1 Samuel 2:8, it says he raises the poor from the dust and lifts the beggar from the ash heap and sets them among princes. He makes them inherit the throne of glory, for the pillars of the earth are the Lord, and he has set the world upon them. So through Joseph's story, and Joseph himself learned that rejection can work purpose. Some of y'all need to thank God you were rejected. I think Nona Jones, who has called it the gift of rejection. If you had accepted that, you wouldn't have been in the position to accept better. You need to thank God that you were rejected, so now you be in a position to accept. Come on now, even rejection can work for you. The pit was a pathway to the palace. God knows how to get you there from here. That's a word to somebody. God knows how to get you there from here. It may feel like you're so far away from your destiny. It may feel like you're so far away from where you saw things being. It may feel like you're so far away from how you saw this thing working out. But God knows how to get you there from here, because some of us have very unconventional and unorthodox path to destiny. All of us, there's some people, I we were watching CBS Morning News yesterday. And the CBS Morning Show on Saturdays has changed. And we didn't know what was going to happen to it. It just happened. And Michelle Miller and the other, they just canceled them. And I thought the whole show was being canceled. They're just switching up people. So now Adrienne Diaz, who's a Dominican young lady, and this young lady named Kelly, who used to just be a contributor to get financial reports, they're now the new anchors for the CBS Morning Show. So they wanted people to get to know them. And so one of them was talking, and Kelly had been I don't want to call it a pageant winner. Used to call them beauty queens years ago, okay? But she had been a pageant winner, and from the pageantry, then she worked in Wall Street, and that's why she started contributing to financial news. And then one day, she said, can somebody just give me a chance? I will do this for free. Now she's the morning anchor on the CBS Morning Show. Adrienne Diaz, who's been filling in here and there on CBS Morning News, she had, people don't know, but even though she grew up in the Bronx section of New York, she knows Mandarin, she knows several languages. She was a CBS correspondent in China for many years, and now she is the morning anchor on CBS Morning News. And that's not the traditional way you get there. A more traditional way would be to having the success stories of like our local Craig Melvin, who grew up here, worked on the anchor here, and he went from WIS to Washington, D.C. to NBC, and now is one morning host on the Today Show. A lot of us, we don't have linear paths. It looks like where you are right now is so unrelated to what God showed you. Who am I talking to? It looks like this job, why am I even doing this? And I remember when it looked like I was having random jobs, even before I took them, I would say, God, now, I don't know how you're going to work this in, but I ask that you work this in. You work this in. I watch it. Every car I bought, it's been a blessing I've sold cars. Every time I have an insurance, and one of my sons had an accident in one of my vehicles. I said, I don't want you to go through my insurance. And most people just file it through their own insurance. I found out, I said, get all the information. I got on a website. I filed a claim through the other person's insurance. I don't even know if he filed it, but I filed it. Without having contacted my insurance company, now it may work out, but everything that I do now, something I went through in the past prepared me for it. I want you to understand this. When you are called by God, you're in purpose. Nothing's a coincidence. Your downs is not a coincidence. Your ups are not, your shortcomings. God has a way of working it all in, because some of us have unconventional, unorthodox past our destiny. Exodus 13:18. New Living Translation says, God led them in a roundabout way. A roundabout way through the wilderness towards the Red Sea. Many times people will say to me, we'll meet people, I don't know if they hear the accent, but they say, are you originally from here? We said, no. I said, well, no, we grew up in New Jersey. They said, how did you get here? And sometimes I don't have time for all that. I only have time to tell you my story because we got here in a roundabout. Are any of y'all at a place that you got to in a roundabout way? It was not a linear path. This is not your degree. This is not your training. You were in this place at that time. You heard this. You went to this meeting. You met this person. And now you're in purpose. God led them a roundabout way through the wilderness towards the Red Sea. Isaiah 43:19, remember what God said? He said, behold, I'll do a new thing. And with many of you, what you're going through, God going to do a new thing with it. There are other people telling you, get out of that. Don't stay there. You need to move. You need to do this. But you know in your heart and your spirit, you're looking at the things which you're not seeing. God going to do a new thing. He said, now it shall spring forth, so you not know it. Here we go. I will make a road in the wilderness, rivers in the desert. That is not natural. You can't do any research to find out how you make roads in wilderness. You can't do research to find out how he'll make rivers in a desert. Other than the fact that you got to obey God, and God will tell you, somebody just drive on into the desert. Just walk into the wilderness, and it makes no sense. But as you go, a road is there. As you go, rivers end up there. And you can't explain that. And if God didn't tell anybody else that, they're not going to understand it. But God knows how to work it in, even if he works it in through you going through an unorthodox and unconventional way to your destiny. If Joseph stayed with his family, he would have never saved nations. Joseph's delay worked development in him. Prison taught him administration skills, leadership skills. It taught him discernment. Oh, come on now. You don't have to raise your hand. But if you do any time in prison, you learn who to get connected to, who not to get connected to. You know who to avoid, who not to avoid. You can judge things by what it feel like. You can look at situations and be able to discern them. Joseph daily delay the work development. Prison taught him administration, leadership, discernment. And before God elevated Joseph publicly, listen to me, he matured him privately. Is it possible you need to mature more privately so God can bless you publicly? Can I tell you this? God does not want to put you on a larger stage with bright lights to embarrass you. You need to be prepared for where you're going. And many times God prepares you in obscurity before you come to notoriety. And so through Joseph's story, we learned that before God elevated him, he matured him. He had, watch this, I bet Joseph got the point, I ain't telling nobody nothing the Lord didn't tell me. Okay? There's some things that's going to be between me and God. Until God connects me with the right people, right place, right time, I'm going to keep my mouth shut. I'm not going to speak in every environment. Watch this. Can I tell you, it's mature, and I'm talking personally right now. I had to grow to a place that I can be in a room and just shut up. And I think it came from my background of being in obscurity, being the only one in the school, and coming from the projects, and everybody else seemed like they were doing better. And you always like you want to show that you qualify. Whenever something says, you gotta be the one to answer the question. You want to show I'm smart too. You realize all that's part of immaturity? Maturity is to be able to shut up, sit there, and nobody got to know anything about you. You don't have anything to prove. Come on now. As a matter of fact, I see why y'all talk so much and because you need to be seen. I don't need to be seen. I don't need anybody to know my name. He knows my name. But that's a place of maturity. I wasn't always there. Okay? That's why, when you take these personality traits, I realize I have gone from an extrovert to an introvert. I was the life of the party. I always had to be around the people. I can be by myself and have a good old time. A lot of folks got depressed during the pandemic because they'd be by themselves. I'm saying, look at God. Won't he do it? Okay, people, I miss people. I'm like, Lord, can we just stay here forever? No, we can't do this. You got to get back with the people. All right, Lord. But sometimes that's a place of maturity. Let me get ready to wrap this up. From Joseph's experience, we learn that pain can work perspective. Everybody say pain can work perspective. So when Joseph got the full revelation, when he pulled the pieces of his life together, when the jigsaw puzzle came together, despite feeling rejected, despite feeling despised, despite feeling ignored, despite mistreatment by his brothers, despite being overlooked and by his father and all of that, Joseph pulls it all together. And he sees this from God's perspective of how it worked for him. And we read in Genesis 15:20, he says, but as for you, you thought evil against me. You did this to hurt me. You did this to stop me. You did this to hinder me. You did this to get rid of me. You did this thinking you will never see me or have to deal with me again. But what you meant for evil, God meant it for good. He said to bring to pass as it is this day to save much people alive. He said, unwise people. What you didn't realize is that you were trying to get rid of me, but God needed me to help you. Can I tell you, the people who send you away will send for you. The people who rejected you will call you. The people who overlooked you will come looking for you. It's working. Somebody say it's working. It's working. It's working. Y'all. So Joseph learned to interpret life through God's intent, not people's ill intent. Let me say this again. Joseph learned to interpret life and to see things through God's intent, not people's ill intent. And from Joseph's story, we see that what looks like demonic sabotage may actually be divine staging. Let me say it again. What looked like demonic sabotage may actually be divine staging. Sometimes God is setting things up. So when you get there, all you got to do is show up. Woo. I can't tell you, and some of those people are still here, I didn't understand what they meant. When we started this ministry in 1996 and started growing, people started coming, several people came to us and said to us, we prayed you here. Some of them are still here. They said, we prayed. There's a couple in our church. He's elderly gentleman. He's been going through health challenges, and and God just continues to sustain his life and keep him. Brother Jacobs, we went to see him last year, and he said to me, I said, tell everybody, we prayed you here. This was going on, that was going on. I was at the place we weren't going anywhere. And I said, God, raise up somebody. Send a man of God here. Send a woman of God here. God, and so when I got here, a lot of the stage was already set. Oh, okay. Find the scripture for me. It says, God said, I'm sending you in to reap harvest where you did no labor. You will enter into the harvest from others' labors. Come on. In other words, God said, what you think is delay, I'm letting other folk work for you. Oh my goodness. What you think is denial, no, in the fullness of time, God sent forth his son, made of a woman. So God has the set time for everything, and sometimes the reason why you got to do so much work to try to make this happen is because you didn't wait on the Lord. When God created, that's John 4:38, thank you. John 4:38 says, I sent you to reap that for which you have not labored. Somebody need to receive this. For many of you are entering into this season. I sent you to reap for that which you have not labored. Others have labored, and you have entered into their labors. In other words, God said, I'm going to give you harvest through somebody else's work because they abandoned it, because they didn't keep the right attitude, because they weren't persistent, because they didn't wait on God. And God said, I have set that up for you to walk in. Oh, my God. The house that we're in right now, some of you heard me tell this story. I'll end here. Is the house that we're in right now. Let's look, somebody say it's working for you. It's working for you. So a year before we closed on this house, we made an offer on that house, on the house. We made the offer on the house. I had a contingency offer, which means that my current house had to sell in order to buy it. Well, my current house didn't sell. Somebody else bought the house. So someone else bought the house. 9 to 12 months later, the house goes back on the market. The Lord tells us, go and get your house. When we went back to get the house, and I didn't make a contingency offer. The only reason why I made a contingency offer the first time is because I didn't use my faith. There was a situation in the past that I got stuck with the house for 5 years, and I said I was traumatized. Like, we ain't doing that no more, okay? And so we didn't make contingency offer. By the time we get to this house, everything that Pastor Marshall wanted, they had done. They took the house from a traditional walnut brown house to a light, bright, gray, contemporary type house. Redid all appliances, redid floors, redid so many things. As a matter of fact, and I'm sitting there, there were two things I wanted to do at my old house. It was going to cost about $10,000. I didn't want to spend it. I wanted docks for my jet skis, not my jet skis, my son's jet skis that they asked me to buy. Okay. I wanted dock for my jet skis, and I wanted a boat lift. And to get a boat lift, you have to get a permit from Dominion Energy and all that. I had the permit. I was scheduled for it, and I didn't want to pay this. Well, when we got that house, it had docks. It had boat lift. They redid the whole dock. So now we walk in to what other people labored over. Now, let me give you a little bit of the backstory. The backstory that we heard was that the woman bought the house to come down here and be close to her grandchildren. It was a woman of means, I believe from Connecticut, was the story I heard. She bought the house. Her daughter was married a man who was a professional athlete, and so she came down here to be close to her and her grandchildren. Well, the man found out that he was a cheater, pumpkin eater. The marriage broke up. They got divorced. They're not living in this house. And because they broke up, the daughter is now moving. And the mama said, well, ain't no sense of me staying here. 9 months later, she put the house back on the market. Now, I feel sorry for the people's marriage, and the brother shouldn't have cheated on his wife, but the wealth of the wicked. Is laid up for the just. And what I'm telling you, sometimes some of y'all are so anxious, you're so worried, you're gonna jump out the frying pan into the fire. God, don't you see me? Don't you see me, Jesus? My biological clock ain't ticking no more, it's stomping. Boom, boom. Don't you see me? Can I tell you, if you wait on the Lord, and I can say this in so many ways, it's always worth the wait. Because God, I believe this word came Friday night, God has a way of accelerating things. God has a way of accelerating things. God blessed us so much after we came to South Carolina. The word got back to New Jersey. And I had friends say, Herb, I heard you went down to South Carolina and got rich. I said, sure did. Okay. All these people knew I was the boy from the projects in the storefront church on Martin Luther King Drive. Okay, you don't even have to go to a city, and you already know. It was on Martin Luther King Drive, Road, Boulevard, Street. You know we be in the hood, bees in the trap. You know. You know. And people say stuff, people who didn't know me, who did not know my labor, who did not know my faithfulness to my uncle, to the Carters in Oklahoma, to Bishop Coleman up in Maine, who did not know my journey. They said stuff like, just came here and that ministry came up overnight. Overnight success. It may look like overnight success to you. God just knew how to bless me at the right time because I stayed faithful and my way there was unorthodox. Come on, stand with me today. Some of you, God got you on an unorthodox path. I ain't finished with. As a matter of fact, the Lord told me before I came out, He said, don't rush through this and try to finish it today. I heard Pastor Marcia, Pastor Marcia used to say to me years ago, if I preached too long, he used to say, you know this is your church, right? This is your church. You know you can come back next Sunday and continue. Because I'm not finished this. In 2026, I want you to know, even the negative things that happen, it's going to work for you. Hallelujah. It's going to work for you. It's going to work for you. There was nothing, ain't nothing fun. I mean, just any of those situations that Joseph went through, any of them alone was enough to give up on life. Imagine being thrown down into a pit. When I was a kid, y'all don't see these movies anymore, but when I was a kid, they always had these Western movies on, and people would fall in quicksand. Y'all remember that? And you couldn't do nothing in quicksand. The more you moved, the more you go down. And sometimes you may feel like you're in quicksand, but some kind of way, God gonna get glory out of it. But what the devil wants you to do is give up on God. Joseph could have said just being in the pit was enough to give up. Wait a minute, I'm with my father. I go from being my father's favorite son with a psychedelic coat. You got to be old enough to know the word psychedelic. That means very colorful coat. Go from having a colorful coat to not being a slave. But I'm a good slave. I'm doing what Master tell me to do. Not doing anything wrong. And then I'm lied on. As a result of being lied on, I end up in prison. If he was like me, I'd be like, I've done everything possible to try to obey the rules, get my education, cross my T's, dot. How do I end up in prison? Joseph probably saying. Then he helps a man, and he tells the man, when you get out of here, can you remember me? When you get your position back with Pharaoh, the butler, can you tell him about me? And the man forgot about him. I don't even remember exactly, but it was years, it's believed to be many years. And then finally Pharaoh needs an interpreter, and the guy says, I remember when I was in prison. There was this guy. And some of you feel like with all you have done for people, look like they've gone on and they have forgotten you. It's nothing like knowing you help somebody get someplace and they get there and don't even remember your name. Oh, I've had to deal with that even as a pastor. There are people who we saw, who we counseled them, helped put the marriage together, spent hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. And these folks, they would go on. They'd never say anything, never do anything, forget you ever did anything for them. And you can feel some kind of way about all that. But today, God works all of that in. So the word is, it may be an unorthodox how you're getting there, but you're going to get there. Glory to God.